Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus today. Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you would a radio broadcast. In this essay, I'd like to talk about mass migration generically, and it's been going on all across the Western world at frantic pace for some years now. In Australia, we've been taking in recently, this is at a population of 26 million, been taking in 500,000 new migrants in all their flavours, whether they're refugees or family reunion chain migration or supposed skilled migration or any other freeloaders, students and that convert to work visas and so on. Now, the government's own admission, whenever they study this, they admit quietly, they don't publicise it, and a lot of the media won't touch it, but they say that between 3 and 5%, at best, or the most optimistic, 5% of the mass migrants, again of all types, only 5% or less than 5% are viable. When by viable, it means they can speak English in Australia and they have the skills qualifications to undertake work that is needed where there are shortages in the employment marketplace. And so that's a very small number. So to put some perspective on it, out of 500,000 people coming into Australia, only between 15 and 20,000 are viable. Of those, the majority are white anyway, coming from, say, the United Kingdom or wherever. So there's when you take out, like if you look at the less than 10% are approximately 10% are from white countries. Well, not even that much. So most of the white people are viable. There are very few that are not. But of the brown and black people, you're looking at 99% non-viability. Now, how can any economy or nation absorb that sort of hit? You're just importing effectively 470,000 freeloaders, people that'll never be productive, or if they are productive, it'll be in some marginal sense where they're artificially depressing wages in the floor sweeping industry or something like that. And that artificial depressing wages means that financial resources flow into sectors of the economy, take out food, whatever, sectors of the economy that wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the slave labour. So they serve no actual benefit or wider benefit in the economy or to society. So when the same as in the United States, if you look at the United States mass migration program, putting aside illegals even, because Australia doesn't have a huge problem with illegals or nothing like they do in Europe and in the United States. So most of the illegal, not all, there are a few come in, along Australia's northern coast on ships and going into the very long coastline Australia has. But the majority of illegals are here just in visa overstays. Student finishes their bullshit nail painting or whatever, burger flipping course that they do, dishwashing or something, and then they just stay and disappear into the ether, as it were. So visa overstays are the primary, and it's nearly always Indians, some Chinese. So if you look at America's, though, the maximum amount of people that America needs each year in migration, skilled, this is assuming genuine, bona fide skilled migration, would be, maybe 250,000, 300,000 at the outside. Australia, 15 to 20,000, 25, 30. Let's be generous, 30,000. So those are the sort of numbers of skills that are needed. So there's not many people in like India. If you look at the Indian subcontinent, they've got a population in the total subcontinent, like including Pakistan and everything, Bangladesh, they've got a population of more than 2 billion, billion with a B, so more than 2 billion. Of those, though, a tiny proportion are what you would call skilled in the Western merit-based sense. So you'd be looking at the entire continent would have, I don't know, 20 to 25 million skilled people. And they could easily be distributed around the world, but then India would have no skilled people left. But it's how do we look at migration? The mass migration is being forced on the West by the globalist cabal is, of course, unsustainable. Even if they replace all the white people, they've then got a problem of how do you manage such a lazy, useless, incompetent, low IQ workforce? What do you do? What do you use them for? What's brought this to mind, certainly for me, is I went to have a business meeting in the city today, and yet again on public transport, I was either one of a small handful of, or the only white guy on the public transport. Again, 20 years ago, I used to have to travel overseas. Even 15 years ago, 10 years ago, I used to have to travel overseas, and being a business traveller, I was used to sort of being the only white guy in the room. But I had to go to third world or other countries to do that. Whereas now, I can get it in downtown Sydney. It's even worse than if I'd go around, I don't know, say Singapore or Kuala Lumpur, Jakarta, or even, I would bump into some white people, but I can go on the public transport here in Sydney and not see any in my home country of Australia, in Sydney, for fuck's sake. That's how bad it is. Now, and the same today. And so I went to a meeting today, and this is in America, or the Australian office of an American company, and they have products engineered and developed by white people in a 90+% white country, by very clever white guys in all white universities and that sort of thing. And I'm sitting in there's 5 or 6 people I think was in the room with me at this meeting. None of them, no white people at all. None of them speak English as a first language. None of them, in my view, none of them are qualified to be in job. They've been gifted it. All of them are diversity and affirmative action hires. None of them should be there. So the thing that irritated me was, apart from the language issue, how can you have everyone in the room doesn't fucking speak English as a first language? There's a few people where their English was decent enough, by the way, but there are also a few there that their English was so bad, I thought, why are you even talking? I can't understand you. So why is that? It's not just simply a case of affirmative action. There's been a specific decision: we will not hire white people in Australia. We will not hire them. It doesn't matter if they're qualified. We don't give a fuck. We're not going to hire them. We will, and we must, and we are going to hire unqualified brown people that can't speak English. Now, no sane business is going to do that. So what makes these people do this? Is it they get so many government contracts they don't care? Is there's something else going on? But there's been a willful determination to not hire white people, and to avoid hiring qualified people. It's been around, and I got to, maybe I was just having a bad day, and I had to use up quite a bit of energy to not allow my irritation and exasperation, or impatience for that matter, having to go over things again and again and again because I can't understand. Firstly, the language issue, the language barrier, but secondly, these are just low IQ people. They can't understand or grasp complicated, or not even complicated, not even particularly complicated. They can't grasp the concepts. So you come out with something that I think is relatively straightforward, and you just get blank stares in return. Could you say that again? Could you repeat that, please? And fuck, how many times do I have to say it? So, and I don't want to get it, because as soon as you show your irritation, they pick up on that. So I don't want to do that. But that's sort of how it is. Why are these people even here? What are they bringing to the table? What skills? What capability? They're certainly not pro Australia or white people or the economy. They're out to take what they can take, get what they can get, freeload what they can freeload, steal what they can steal. That's why they're here. They're here because they come into a rich economy, and that's the only reason that they don't want to be Australian or any part of it. So the idea is that I don't mind migration. I mean, gee whiz. But if you go back to the 1960s, say, and you look at a ship's manifest, or say a migrant ship coming from Europe, say, now they're nearly all white people. There may be a few sort of light brown people, like Northern Italians, that are pretty fair. But I mean, there were some that weren't. Yeah, you look at the people and you go through the manifest, and you see there are people there such as carpenters and plumbers, electricians, nurses, architects, that sort of. Everyone seemed to have something. Well, maybe not everybody, but they seemed to have a qualification that was needed. All of those people were needed. There were genuine jobs and genuine demand for people with those skills and capabilities and knowledge and experience. Nor was it just a case of some young guy just got his apprenticeship, his carpentry apprenticeship certificate, then came to Australia. These were people who were carpenters, and they also had 10 years experience. So these are people that had, walked the walk and talked the talk and been to school and all this. Those people are valuable to an economy. They would be today, let alone back then. So these were the sort of people that were coming. Now, today it's completely different. Illiterate third world peasants with low IQ, illiterate third world peasants many of whom have never even had a job. They come from some rural, fucking shanty town somewhere. They've never actually done anything, and they're the ones that are being brought in. So the migration system is bringing in low skilled, low IQ, illiterate third world peasants, and their only fucking focus is to make sure that the whole family and the whole village come out and share this bounty of the rich country. So that's all that is everything. Every waking moment is dedicated towards that. It's not dedicated towards bringing any. So then another bunch of low IQ, illiterate peasants come out through, or as the Americans call it, chain migration, but it's called family reunion in Australia. And they're allowed to bring out, second cousins and all this sort of stuff. It's insane. But that's what's going. So the migration to the West has to stop. It's at insane levels, whether it's illegal or not. Now, in Australia, over 40% of the migration is family reunion, chain migration. These are people that bring nothing to it. They're just parasites. So why should they be coming to Australia as well, to the West, to a rich economy? They bring nothing, deliver nothing, are capable of nothing. All they can do is, I don't know, to deliver, pizzas or sweep the floor. I mean, that's it. That's the extent of their capability. And even then, so these are the people that are being brought over in vast numbers. So chain migration, family reunion, as it's called in Australia, is 40-odd%. Then you've got refugees, again, very low quality people, very low quality, many of whom, again, are in low IQ peasants who've known nothing but, say, civil war and strife all their lives. I mean, they're not going to make good migrants, for goodness sakes. Then they say 10 to 15%, 3 to 5% are viable, and the rest are say people like from the Philippines, where they've got sort of functional English, but they're far from being geniuses. And again, their sole focus is to bring out the whole fucking village to the West. So this is the makeup. So now this is something that the globalists are fixated upon, very determined to do it. But we, the people, need to say, no, that has to stop. If it's truly skilled migration, people that coming to Australia, they speak good English, they have first world recognised credentials and qualifications and experience. Not that they worked sweeping the floor in some shanty town in the middle of nowhere. No. They're functional English. They have to commit. They have to commit to wanting to be part of the Australian or the Western lifestyle and culture, and that they must commit to that. This is not a matter for debate or discussion or negotiation. They must do it. And then fine, what's wrong with that? If there are those people around, bring them in, assuming they want to come. But otherwise, no. The idea of illiterate, low IQ peasant freeloaders, no. Because that's nearly all we're getting. 95% of the total. That's it. That's all we're getting. So and that I believe has to stop. you've been with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.